this isn't really going to be a review. It's going to be more of a reaction, but I'm letting you know up front, I am spoiling this show. So right after the intro, we're going to talk about it. Welcome back to the DL Jones Show. I'm your host, DL Jones, and today I'm talking about the woman in the house across the street from the girl in the window. Yep, that's the title of this new TV series. It's on Netflix. I watched it last week, or maybe it was 2 weekends ago, but I binged the whole show like over the course of like a Friday and a Saturday. I think Friday, Saturday, and Sunday or whatever. But I binged the whole show, and it was weird because it's just a weird show, and I'm going to get into it. It's not going to be a full-on review, but there's a part of this show that kind of like really, really made me feel a certain type of way when it happened. And I'm going to spoil it. It's a big spoiler part of the show. I'm going to spoil it. So if you haven't seen this show and you plan on watching it, you know, I hate to tell you to turn it off, but don't watch this video because I'm straight up spoiling it. So anyway, this show, it stars Kristen Bell. Now, Kristen Bell, if you've watched my other videos, every once in a while, I bring up people that I say that there's certain actors and actresses that if I see their name on a list of cast members of a particular TV show or a movie, that name automatically will make me at least give it a shot. You know, it's certain actors like that. You know, Kristen Bell is one of them. She's one of those people that, you know, I know her from the Veronica Mars series, and I didn't even watch that when it was on TV. I ended up catching up on that like years later after it was off the air. But yeah, she's one of those actors. When I see her in something, you know, I'm gonna watch it. So I'm flipping through Netflix. I see this show come up. The title just looks crazy. The cover don't really look like something that I would be into. But I see her picture on the front, and I'm like, okay, Kristen Bell. I'm watching it. I want to see what this is about. It's a series. I want to say it's about 10 episodes or something. I'm not sure how many it is. But anyway, the premise of this show is Kristen Bell is she's a divorced wife, and it starts off with she's having like kind of emotional and mental issues. You know, she had a 9-year-old daughter that died like 3 years prior. Very horrible death. I'm not going to spoil that part for you. That's absurd too, but I'm not going to spoil that part for you. But her daughter died like 3 years prior. And, you know, of course, a lot of times in families and stuff, when a child dies like that, it'll cause problems with the husband and wife, and it led to them getting a divorce. So she's divorced. She moved into this new house, and she's on like all kinds of medication, you know, medication for her mental well-being and all of that kind of stuff. And one point that they always point out is that you're not supposed to drink alcohol while you're on this medication. And her problem is she's an alcoholic. So she's on this medication and she's an alcoholic. And she just have a lot of mental issues, and a lot of people in the neighborhood, you know, notices it. They was like, yo, you're an alcoholic, you're drunk, and all of this kind of stuff. So one night she's sitting in the house taking pills and drinking wine, and she hears a noise, and she looks out the window, and across the street from her, she see this woman get her throat slit and gets killed, you know? And the house that she saw the woman in is a house where this man and his daughter lived at, and she was interested in the man. So she had already, like before all of this happened, she had already kind of introduced herself to them and everything, thinking that maybe, you know, that's the kind of guy she could be with and all of that kind of stuff. Made friends with the daughter and everything. The daughter was 9 years old, just sort of like the same age as her daughter was before. So she sees that. So she calls the police, and she's talking real crazy because she's drunk, but she saw a woman get her throat slit and saw a woman get killed in the window across the street. And she's calling the police. The police is telling her to calm down, and they kind of don't, you could tell 911, they kind of don't believe her. So she gets off the phone, and she calls herself to go save the woman. You know, now it's pouring down raining outside. And one of the things that she's developed in all of her mental instabilities since her daughter dies was a phobia of rain. So she looks and she sees it's raining, but she's like, okay, a woman needs help. I'm going to go help her. So she runs out there, and she tries to get across the street so that she can help this woman. And the rain kind of overcomes, and she passes out in the middle of the street. So she wakes up the next morning, right? Police is at her house. Did you call 911 last night reporting a murder? And she was like, yes. Well, they was like, well, we've been to the house. There was no murder. The woman is fine. You know, she's not even home. She's been out of town for the past couple of weeks, but she's like, I know what I saw. I know what I saw. So basically, that's what the show was about. You know, she saw this murder. Nobody believes her. Everybody knows that she's on the pills. Everybody knows that she's an alcoholic. So they all think that she got passed out drunk and it was a hallucination or something like that. And just the whole series just goes on. It toys with you on whether or not if what she saw is real or just something that was in her mind. You know, it takes a while before you realize if it's real or not, you know. So that part was interesting. I mean, it was a lot of absurd stuff that happened throughout the series. Really explanation for things aren't just simple explanations. They're just really way out of bound explanations for stuff that I'd be like, whoa, why did they decide to write this in here? So that's it. You know, that's the whole story, the whole series, you know, dealing with that. You know, of course, eventually they do find out that the woman was murdered. They find the body and somehow she get involved with another guy and they think that this guy was the guy that killed the woman. So they arrest him and then later on find out he was innocent, and then they found she was a painter, so they found one of her little putty knives on the body. Now she's a suspect, and says she gets arrested, but it's a whole big to-do, you know, going with all of this stuff. So now the part that gets on my nerves, right, the part that really threw me off, and this is the whole point of this whole series I'm about to spoil. Okay, at the end, you find out who the real killer is. Now, the real killer, and this is a spoiler, is the 9-year-old little daughter that she met. The daughter from the husband and the daughter that lives across the street. Now, the daughter is the real killer. Now, how she finds out is first she thinking it's her handyman, because she found out her handyman was something that her husband was a person that her husband found, her husband treated. Her husband is a psychologist that treats people that went to prison, you know, and this guy was a guy that her husband treated and, you know, was released from prison and was supposed to be recovered, but he stuck around the house and was helping her with stuff. So she thought that he was the one that was killer. And then she saw that he was going over to the house across the street. So she goes over there to try to save the little girl and the father, you know, because she's like, the killer's going over there. So she goes over there, and when she goes in the house, the first thing she see is the handyman who she thought was a killer on the ground dead. His throat was slit. So then she walks in the living room, and the father, he's on the ground. He's on the chair dead. His throat slit. And that's when the 9-year-old girl comes out with a knife. And she goes through this whole tirade about how she killed this person, she killed that person, she killed the woman, and she framed her by going to get her putty knife. And this wasn't the first time she tried to. It was a whole big to-do. She had a whole mastermind plot, a 9-year-old little girl. And that's not enough. The part that really angered me is that after she explained, the 9-year-old little girl, after she explained everything, Kristen Bell and a 9-year-old little girl get into a fist fight to the death in the middle of the house. I mean, Kristen Bell, a grown woman, is in there fighting a 9-year-old little girl. 9-year-old little girl stabbing her up, kicking her butt all over the place, almost killed her. The only reason she survived was because her husband kind of figured things out and showed up at the last minute. This was so insane. I just rolled my eyes the whole time I saw this. I felt so bad for Kristen Bell. Maybe she thought it was fine, but I know if it was me, if I was an actor, and I'm reading the script and I'm like, oh, this sounds good. This sounds good. Then I look at the end and I see that this movie or TV show ends with me getting into a fist fight with a child. No way I would have took that. You know, I was so embarrassed for her. And it was just so annoying to see that that's how they ended this show. You know, it was annoying. And then to put things to kind of like kick you in the butt when you think it's over. Okay, so after it's over and the next day she wakes up in the hospital, right? So everybody now everybody knows that she wasn't just a drunk, that she was telling the truth and all of this kind of stuff. There was a murder. So like all of the neighbors that she had issues with and all of these people that she had issues with are one by one coming into her hospital room. She's all wrapped up in the hospital bed, neck brace, all of this kind of stuff. So all of those people who just thought she was just insane throughout this whole series, one by one, they're coming into the room and they're apologizing for, you know, not believing her and how mean it was to her and all of this kind of stuff. So then one of them come in and ask her, how are you feeling? And she tells them, I feel like I got hit by a Mack truck driven by a 9-year-old. Which is fine if you said it one time. But she said that same line to every single person that came in to apologize to her and asked her how she's feeling. She said it about 3 or 4 times to 3 or 4 different people. I was like, oh my gosh, she just had a fight with a 9-year-old, an embarrassing grown woman fighting a 9-year-old on screen. to the death, and a 9-year-old kicking her butt and almost killed her. And now she has to say this corny line to every single person that comes in the room over and over again. It made me wonder, why did the director or the writers make her say that so many times, you know? But yeah, that part is just, it just, when it came to the end, like the story itself, I wouldn't say it was good. The show, I wouldn't say it was good, but it was interesting enough. It had enough things going on that made me want to see what was going to happen, and it kept me interested until the end of the show. But when that thing ended, and I saw that she was about to have a fist fight to the death with a 9-year-old, and they actually had a choreographed fist fight to the death with a grown woman and a 9-year-old. When I saw that, I was like, oh man, it made me wish I hadn't even started the show, you know? And then the bad thing about it is that they ended the series setting up a season 2. I don't know if it'll happen, but that's how they ended the series. And I don't know what people think about this show. Maybe that didn't bother people as much as it did me, but that bothered me. You know what I'm saying? That bothered me. It felt like it wasted the show by ending it that way, where they actually, it's one thing if the 9-year-old was the one that did it and she figured it out and caught her, but no, it wasn't that simple. She had an actual fist fight to the death with a 9-year-old, a grown woman. But yeah, that's the TV show on Netflix, The Woman in the House Across the Street from the Girl in the Window. If that kind of stuff don't bother you, I'd say check it out, because it does have enough things going on in the show that'll keep you guessing and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I just had to spoil this one straight up, because I know sometimes I do spoilers, sometimes not, but I had to spoil this one straight up because it just bugged me so much when that ending happened, and that's how it ended. But yeah, thank you for watching my little rant. I don't get to rant like this too much, but it was a little bit fun to do this little rant. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.